Hello and welcome live to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am your host, Andy, and with me this week is Matt, since I guess John just really isn't on the show anymore. Huh?
Yeah. No, he's gone. It's just me and Emma filling in for him forever.
Yeah, and last week he missed a good episode of Survivor, and this week he missed an episode of Survivor.
It happened. There was something on TV this week.
It was certainly 42 minutes of people on an island making decision. This question probably doesn't need to be asked, but it's in our notes. So I'm going to ask it. What was your opinion of this episode, Matt?
It was a pretty boring episode. Very straightforward. They didn't really even try to, surprise us in any way. We knew that one of those three people went home, and one of those three people went home.
Yeah, I was like, I don't hate it or anything. This is what happens sometimes in Survivor. This is what happens when the obvious decision is obvious and people do the right obvious thing. In some ways, I think I can respect the show for not trying to fool us this time.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the various things they did to pass the time. But yeah, for me, and especially the things that I respond to in Survivor, and more importantly, the things that I know how to talk about when it comes to Survivor, this wasn't it. So welcome to the show, folks.
Yeah, we're going to be flailing around here tonight.
And also, I am in a dark place. That's why I guess I'm all in dark. And my son's trying to cheer me up with some of this stuff. But no, because they voted out Stephanie, man.
It was, Stephanie was the one who made your wife a little jealous.
Yeah, I will say that it was probably the right choice for my marriage, because not that I think my wife really has to worry about it. If I met a Stephanie, I'd be like, I can't even bend over to tie my shoes. Why would I be with somebody who loves yoga so much? I can bend over to tie my shoes, just so people are wondering.
I'm very proud of you, Andy.
I mean, depending on the day, because I'm old. But before we really get too depressed about the choice of Stephanie and the end of this, all that's good and wonderful about this season, was it the right choice to vote out Stephanie?
Sure, why not? It actually, it wasn't the wrong choice. Was it the optimum choice? It may have been. I think either her or Michael were equally good.
Yeah, and since I think, and one of the reasons why, I was developing a sad, pathetic crush on her is because I thought she was going to be really awesome at Survivor. So if I believe that, I can't exactly fault people for voting her out because she might be threatening to them in Survivor. And I do think that, she would have posed a greater threat than Michael. If they chose Michael, that would be a decent enough choice too. It's certainly a better choice than Jenna, as much as we all wanted it to be Jenna.
Yeah.
And I'd say, and who knows, obviously we got to get to see a lot of the different decision making and how it was switching back and forth. I think there was something to not wanting to vote out your only strong person, or pure strength. I guess Sebastian probably has some, although his seems to be more of an athleticism, and an athleticism that's deeply outclassed on the other side. And people are like, well, why do you just want to lose challenges? You don't care if you vote people out. Well, they do 2 challenges an episode, and people sometimes like to drink coffee. So, from that perspective, and if, they don't know that they are going to cease to be a tribe, in fact, that'd be a weird thing to completely anticipate. I mean, you could definitely anticipate the possibility that it will happen, but to be like, oh, tomorrow won't matter, we're going to be on different tribes. No. So I can see, from that perspective, keeping Michael might win you a reward, and that's nice. Rewards are nice. You're hungry.
And Michael is the exact type of athletic that usually helps in the pre-merge when you have to carry something heavier or help boost people up like a wall or something like that. Michael's type of brawn doesn't carry over as well into the post-merge, but in the pre-merge it is actually legitimately helpful.
Yeah, and he's also not somebody you're going to forget that's out there, whereas Stephanie could, hide a bit if things were to shuffle around. So sadly, it was the right strategic choice for the second week in a row. Mm-hmm. The other people are doing all the right moves, and it's not only breaking my heart, but nobody is really respecting them for it.
Because it's not very good TV just to see 5 people without any cracks in their alliance just kind of mow the other side down.
Yeah, and there's none. Like, the marketing people tried to at least be like, oh, well, Jenna is going to turn up her flirt game. She didn't really. Yeah,
No, she really didn't.
She talked to a guy, and really, come on, marketing people, maybe stop showing us so many things that are obviously leading into tribal council before the immunity challenge. That's 2 weeks in a row. Now, I will say that I'm the kind of person who just watches and gets, swept up, so I don't always, notice like, oh, wait, of course they're going to lose because of all those other scenes. It's more in retrospect. Although I think this week, a little bit during the challenge, I was like, oh, I guess they will lose because we hadn't seen that. In large part because I was surprised that tribe would lose a puzzle challenge. Where's your Kellen now, folks?
See, now you're just getting petty. Now that Stephanie's gone, you're just lashing out in anger.
I generally do not care about anybody this early in the season. Why would you take that away from me? This was all about me. Forget about her survivor journey, and we'll talk about all of this. This was about me and my journey of somebody, watching it and talking about it and other things. Obviously I'm not happy about this. I will get over it quickly if somebody else emerges as a talented player. But I'm not alone in believing that she was unusually featured in a prominent way, right?
Is this the moment when we drag Colin Stone?
I would, except that during the episode, I'm like, it was like two things. I was like, okay, I think she's going to win this season. This feels like somebody who's going to win this season, but I don't know how she gets out of this episode and mostly I was just like, well, they'll screw up. They just won't vote for her for one reason or another. And I was hoping that like Jenna would make herself a threat, and then it would be the traditional. We have to get out the woman who is attractive to at least one of our members, or as we said, Michael would be a good choice. Hey, we have somebody interrupting the podcast, and it wasn't even one of my human children. Gromit, when did you learn to open doors? Oh, hi, bud.
But human child interrupted.
Yeah, maybe he had an accomplice. I remember we talked about this. This side, buddy. Oh, you're starting to see everything your brother put in behind me. Yeah. I know. The dog is watching. Not this dog, though. He's just sniffing, hoping I drop a Kleenex.
He's staring at you.
I know. He's creepy. Right into Matt's soul. Do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
So this is my friend Matt. Remember I told you Matt, and Matt is a boy, not a girl.
Hi.
It does not stand for Matricia. It's clearly Matticus. So why are you still awake?
I want to say good night.
Well, that's a good reason. And it's not like you have school tomorrow.
Good night, Dad.
Good night, buddy. Mwah. I love you. Go sleep. Go read the Ox books with Mom. And close the door tight so that Gromit doesn't burst in again. Nah, he was the accomplice. Oh, sneaking every last chance because he just wants to see himself on video. He loves the sight of seeing his own face and maybe hearing his own voice, and I'd have to question that. Clearly he gets that from his mom. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, her winner's edit. I kind of felt like it was a winner's edit, too. What about you?
I thought there was a distinct possibility. I was not committed to that, but I thought there was a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't committed to it because only an asshole would be that committed to somebody winning this early in the season. But, it was there, right? She said
yes.
that, this is what it's going to be like, the daydream setting up what it's going to be like when she gets her winner's check. That is a frequent thing since Richard Hatch. And it's not just this episode, because, and some people have argued this, they're all right. Everybody who goes to Ghost Island gets some level of a winner's edit right now. Yeah. It was the first episode. It was, her with Jacob. It was last week writing Hope on the Sand. Like, what are they doing, man?
Yeah, that, I think in retrospect, actually, the weirdest part of her edit is probably the Hope in the Sand. Like, it's, normally when it's, like, not going to work out, they would also, like, work in some sort of editor's trick, like, the sea would wash it away, or like, they'd scrub it out, or something like that to show that like this hope isn't going anywhere. But just kind of leaving it there, and like her staring at it made you actually think it was going to work out for them, which maybe that was the point, but I don't think so.
And it's important, like that happened last week when like she wasn't the prime mover of the episode. All she could do is sit around and write hope in the sand. It was Michael's show.
Yes.
That's what it is. So, but they made sure to check in with Stephanie again, the 5th boot of the season. And that is odd. So like that's what it takes to get me interested in character. Plus, I guess a couple of other things is to trick me into thinking that she might be a real player and have a shot at winning, because I only care about winners. All losers can get the step in. But yeah, I do think it was like she was legitimately featured, and I know at least one of our viewers would be like, no, she was getting the obvious prominent pre-merge boot, which I'm not sure that's a real thing. But you win this time. Nameless commenter, who I'll probably name later for a different reason. But I think it was a real it was the beginnings of a prominent boot, much more prominent than the 5th boot. Which I wrote this on Twitter. But like, is she the most favorably edited 5th boot? And a couple things. I was never going to research that, and I also don't want to make 5th boot into like a real thing, and people start talking about this is clearly a 5th boot edit. Like that's the thing, and I don't want to like start seeing like lists of like let's put together an all 5th boot season, because that is stupid. But she clearly was, God bless. And part of the reasons why I'm lazy like that when I tweet, I know somebody's going to do the work for me. But they were like Gabriel Cade. No, this wasn't Gabriel Cade, because I barely remember anything about that guy except for
I don't even remember who that guy is.
And the funny part is, apparently the show remembers Gabriel Cade so little that he auditioned again years later and got through a few rounds before anybody was like, wait, I think you were on Survivor before.
That's actually really good. I didn't know that.
That's amazing. I think they should have cast him just for that reason. And then not actually, like, it wouldn't have been like, bringing... Yeah, it's not like bringing back, Rob versus Russell. He just... Nobody there would recognize him. Maybe, now it's like super fans, but...
Yeah. It's like bringing back Francesca.
Yeah. But again, Francesca's at least somewhat prominent, because first boots, I think, are far more prominent than, say, 5th boots.
Okay. I can see what you're saying.
Well, maybe not 5th, but maybe 3rd boots. 5th has been at least around for a while.
Yeah, you
and
get
I guess
a
lot of people are like, does this mean that they're going to bring her back? And I guess the first thing would be like, well, yeah, maybe. I mean, the threshold for bringing people back is
it's gone a lot lower.
Yeah, it was like, the biggest superstars ever, plus Amber. And then, it's like going on. It's like, okay, well, Parvati was Candace's friend. And then we got down to fan favorite Ciara Dawn Thomas. So, I mean, it could be anybody. But at the same time, like, I don't see why you wouldn't bring Stephanie back. She's my all-time favorite player.
Right. I mean, I think the thing is this. Stephanie got a good edit because she gave the people what they wanted. She was involved in all but one of the boots this season, and for at least the first 2 boots, she was a prime mover of those. And during that, like, she displayed like a level of acumen in game that was entertaining to watch. So if it's entertaining to watch, why not feature it, right?
Yeah. And I think another reason would be, this gets back to the makeup of the cast. And as discussed by, everybody, but, myself as well, with John in the preseason, there's like only 3 older people, or well, I think like 4 older people, but only like 3 parents, because Angela is also a person on the show. Right. So there might not be a whole lot of people on this cast to go to for the inspirational Survivor stuff. And like Brendan's already gone. Now Stephanie's gone. Obviously they're investing that in Donathan. But like, as this season is going to progress, it's going to be, like a family visit of people with their parents and like boyfriends and, roommates or something. Like, there's not going to be a lot of that, life experience stuff, because they did not cast for life experience. So maybe Stephanie was the best they could do in that area. And I don't even mean that as a slight, because, she's amazing and I worship her. But, like, that could be another reason why they leaned heavily on her, because the stuff that she was giving them throughout the season, and especially tonight, it's not going to play as well with somebody else. And they tried it, right? They go to Michael and he talks about how this is his lifelong dream. And I'm like, okay, you puppy.
18.
But lifelong does not mean much for you. I might have lifelong sweaters longer than you. I actually legitimately do. I think I have a University of Michigan one in that I wore in like high school.
Nice.
So yeah, that could be another reason why Stephanie got as much play, is just because children don't give gravitas.
Yeah, I mean, and your point, if you were watching on the video, you might have noticed me starting to smile a mile wide, because the thought just occurred to me that if we lose all of the people with children on this season, which could happen pretty soon,
basically just Dominic left.
Yeah. Then, who are they going to go to for those like inspirational quotes? And I just thought of the answer, and it makes me so happy. Chris Noble. Chris Noble.
We are not yet.
Okay. I will hold on to Chris Noble's thoughts.
The Chris Noble section of the podcast, which will be the majority of the podcast. But to wrap up with Stephanie, yeah, I mean, I'm not happy that she's gone. Hopefully, other people will step up to fill that void, and I'm confident. I think there are many contenders. And my dog is scratching on the door. He wants to come in. And I would let him, except that later he's going to scratch on it to get out. Question from our readers. Barbara Anderson asked, who are some of your favorite pre-merge boots who have yet to return? And I will let you start because I'm just going to let the Beagle in.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So I obviously spent a lot of time researching this, which is to say that I forgot this was a question until a minute before we started. So I decided to go to a season that had a great pre-merge, which is Palau.
All right.
Now, we've already seen Bobby John, who was probably the most interesting pre-merge boot from there. But I would say that Angie could definitely give you something. She was like Steph's friend and the second to last woman. And then maybe also Ibrahim, I think, could be interesting. Not James. James kind of. Ugh. Similarly, I know one person that had been thrown out before who I actually agree with was Brian Corden from Guatemala. I actually think that he'd be interesting. He was really young on Guatemala, so, and I remember liking him. And, got to go for the eye candy, so I'll go Misty from Panama.
Yeah, so of those, you might have picked one person who still knows anything or watches Survivor, so that's good.
Yeah,
I'll echo the Brian Corden thing. I enjoyed him during Guatemala, and then since. And related to that, another pick I have is Bob Dog from Panama.
Wait, was he pre-merge?
Yes, I think he was the last pre-merge.
Oh, no, you're right. He was pre-merge, but Dan Barry was the last pre-merge.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, and the reason why they're related for me is I enjoyed both of them when they were on Survivor, but shortly after CBS experimented with the thing on their website, they had a blog called Survivor Strike Back, where former survivors would comment on what's going on with the current season. This is obviously pre-Twitter, before survivors could just do their own thing, and both Brian and Bob Dog were fantastic at that, and I became huge fans then. And now Brian still, shares some of his views on Twitter, and Bob Dog has been lost to all of us.
I legit think that Brian would be one of the most interesting Guatemala people to bring back. I think he's probably in my top 3 from that season to see back. So
yeah.
I think he would actually be a good pre-merge returnee. And it's hard to think of other ones because we've been pulling so much from that recently. So
yeah, you see a Kelly Wentworth, but obviously she came back. One other choice I have is from last season. I would be all for seeing Allie again. She seemed like she, much like Stephanie, not as much as Stephanie, but had some game and took a bad beat on a swap. Thus, could have maybe done more. I think Stephanie proved a little bit more acumen, but only a little bit, really. Yeah. But mostly, my answer, and I think that's my whole list is those 3, is that I don't generally give a damn about people who go out in the pre-merge. And as you say, a lot of the ones that I may have already come back. But
Yep.
usually it's just like, well, you weren't on Survivor long enough for me to care about, which is why this, this very episode and this, boot is so unusual for me because usually it's like talk to me after the merge. But
Right.
and it's kind of an interesting thing about this season in general is that they actually have given a good amount of shine to, a wider range. Obviously, by doing so, left some people just completely out, and I'm all in favor of that. But like Brendan wasn't buried either. He got a bit. Like a little Hunter-esque, probably not as much as Hunter because it's 20 people instead of 16. And no, Hunter Ellis is not on my list.
I mean, I will say that there is something. The editing this season so far has, I think, done a pretty good job to give you a lot about the boots, especially recently. Like Stephanie, we knew a lot about. Brendan, we didn't know. I thought he had a pretty good edit for Fourth Boot. He had been, shown in the previous couple episodes.
Obviously, Jacob dominated the first 2 hours of the season.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now Stephanie Gonzalez was like barely on the show. But she was the
and
first
nor was
boot.
Morgan.
Yeah,
like she seemed okay, but like somebody like, oh, we'll talk to you again in 3 episodes, and then.
But that's 3 of the 5 boots so far who have gotten like a decent amount of airtime, and it's kind of left a hole where I feel we don't know a lot about some people who, I think are actually sitting pretty well. Like even like a Wendell or a James who have gotten some airtime. I feel like normally we'd be getting a bit more from them.
And what's weird is that they seem to invest us in liking the victims and not liking the successors. And, obviously some of that could be because their eventual fall will be great, except that now their eventual fall will either be by people unrelated to the struggle or like Michael and Jenna. And now Michael, I think they've invested enough interest. I have enough interest. That's fine. Jenna, none, really.
Yeah. I still don't know anything about Jenna, I feel like.
No, I mean, their attempt to, give her moments of growth was like, so you frown a bit. Okay. So that one didn't quite work. So it's like, well, again, why did you throw, like Bradley and Kellen so far under the bus for people that were just going to be gone for almost all the season? No matter what Stephanie herself seemed to think, there's actually a long way to go before the end.
Yeah,
so close.
Right, and here's the thing. If they're going to be the villains later on, then you would still have plenty of time to build them up as such. Yeah. You don't need to establish them as that right away.
Yeah. But that said, maybe there's not much else you could do with a Bradley other than what they've been doing. And they've been doing it fairly successfully. Yes. I think, when he loses, and it's a when, we will rejoice. It'll be great. As long as, it's not like a complete vacuum of interest. And I don't think that's going to be the case as long as our guy, it's time.
Yeah.
As long as Chris Noble is still around.
Chris Noble!
Chris Noble will have to be, if it's the way that it goes, his wrestling name because it's perfect. Yes. Can you believe that he's like maybe our favorite player of the season now?
I mean, Chris Noble is in rarefied air, by which I mean he is, if you take him either seriously or as a joke, I think he's equally as entertaining. He is, he's a unicorn, he's a rare specimen of a Survivor player.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we started just having fun with him, and that started from the very beginning where I proposed that we call him Chris Noble, which was both because it's just a great name, but also because of his videos. It's just like that. It's just this perfect merging of the two. Like I said, that would be his wrestler name, and they would craft his character around it, and he would be successful in it because he lives his gimmick. Yes. But and it's been fun since then. Like in the preseason, people were like, "Man, this guy's a jerk." It's like, no, but he's going to be a fun jerk, and they keep giving us fun things, and we're going to get to them for this episode. But it started to even turn around, and every episode was a little alarming. That's like, stop giving depth to my Chris Noble. But now I'm starting to be like, Chris Noble, right?
Yeah. See, here's the thing that's great about Chris Noble. Whenever you feel like they're taking him too seriously, or, he then starts talking, and if Chris Noble is going to talk, he's going to talk about himself. And that's when the taking him seriously has to stop, because he's going to talk all about Chris Noble, and there is no greater fan of Chris Noble than Chris Noble.
No, and it's just magic, like he's sitting there, great gameplay. This is a chance for me to connect with this other player who will be important to me. I need other players, which,
Yes.
A lot of people wouldn't look at a Donathan and be like, especially, people of Chris Noble's stature, think that they need Donathan, but he's like, this is my chance. And then how does he do it? By talking about Chris Noble.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how would other people do it? They might ask Donathan, hey, what's going on? You want to talk about it? No, not Chris Noble. Chris Noble goes, hey, Donathan, I noticed that you're sad. Let me tell you all about Chris Noble. Because that's going to cheer you up. I was joking on the live blog that the funniest thing would be if Chris Noble's pep talk on Donathan worked so well that Donathan voted out Chris Noble to better his game.
That's right. I gotta be me. This is all me. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go through a wall. It's like reading Ken tweets.
Yes.
No, it's so great because Emma pointed this out in comments, and it's probably completely fair and good. I'll bet that that's what happened. It's like maybe Donathan did talk a bit, and they obviously didn't show that because they already showed us Donathan talking about it, in confessional. Donathan talking about it with Laurel. But I also have no trouble believing that, he let Donathan talk a bit, but just enough so that he could tell his bit. And,
right.
I speak of which I know. And so it's so great. But then you also kind of admire him. Like, man, did he boss that challenge?
He's tossed a few rocks around in his time.
I loved it. As soon as he starts talking, I'm just like, yes!
What was so great about it was he said that, and you could see Probst look at him, have to think to himself, I have to follow up on this because even I'm not sure what he means by this. And then he goes, so what do you mean by that, Chris?
It doesn't shake Chris Noble's confidence at all.
No, he's like, well, I was a college pitcher, so. Which, I mean,
he figured out the challenge right away. Bam! He was on it.
Yes.
I mean, sure, it wasn't that complicated, but he stepped up and he led them to that victory.
There was also a giant banner as they walked into that challenge that said Ghost Island, in case they forgot the name of the season.
I will not hear any slander. That was Chris Noble winning that for his team.
Absolutely.
And then coaching them up afterwards. Every time they win, he's all like, me, us, me.
I love Chris Noble, guys.
His little rap in the confessional. Was it a great confessional or the greatest confession?
I got to go with just great. I don't have an encyclopedic memory of all confessionals. I am sure there is something that could top the Chris Noble rap. I struggle to think of it, though.
Yes. I'm loving what he's giving us, and I'm now realizing this is what other people felt about Coach and Tocantins. Because I hated Coach and Tocantins. I wanted it off my TV. This is one of the reasons why I'm not as over the moon for Tocantins. It's like, I spent most of the season just angry just because, one, he annoyed me, and two, he was seemingly successful for far longer than I wanted him to be. And then I didn't even really like Tyson for most of it because of his affiliation with Coach, and he was kind of mean. He started to win me over because I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of funny. But but not now, man. I'm all in on Chris Noble, which is like, okay, I probably should watch Tocantins again sometime.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Chris Noble has in him a I have moment?
Of course.
Of course he does. That's like all Chris Noble is. Like, I think if you're struggling to understand the appeal of Chris Noble, you have to go back to that Tocantins coach where he goes, says, I bet none of you have ever done this before. And Coach goes, I have. That is the epitome of the Chris Noble appeal.
But here's a key difference. I would believe Chris Noble.
Yes, there is that.
So this is a thought I had in Chris Noble, and here's a comp I had, and why we are not the only people that are like actually unironically starting to come around on him a bit.
Okay.
Chris Noble is Logan Eccles from Veronica Mars.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
But-
so he starts off as just this the massive douchebag. Although not as much as Logan. Like Logan did some dirt, man, to begin that season. But
yeah, you
he
see,
just-
Logan was more the bad boy, I feel like.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a douchebag, but he was a bad boy.
yeah, and you don't like him, but then it's kind of like he's got the charisma, and it just starts to be a little bit of fun, and then suddenly you start to like him a bit more, and then suddenly they have to just like turn it around and like he's one of the biggest characters on the show, and when he's everybody's boyfriend, and like I think that's what's happening. It's just his supreme arrogance is starting to turn. And again, not for everybody, because for some people it's just a complete anathema, but it's starting to turn from hateable to like this is kind of fun.
Yeah, when the season began, I loved to hate him. Now I'm like, it's like I still love to hate him, but I also kind of like him.
Yeah. I don't want to see him go. You
No,
know?
I don't either. I really hope we get a lot more Chris Noble. I think there might come a point where I get tired of his shtick, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's coming anytime soon.
Yeah, and I think especially, were he to come for another season and somehow, not just immediately get voted out. And like this isn't just like a Logan Eccles thing. Like this is a common thing. They have shows have a douchey guy, and they get the best lines. The actors have so much fun doing them, and then suddenly Spike is on every season of Buffy, even though he murdered a bunch of people. Suddenly, we're supposed to forget that Barney is like a real trash human being because he's the best part of the show, and maybe that's what Chris Noble is like. In fact, maybe Barney's a better comp because he's
Yeah,
Like-
that's actually
like-
pretty good. Comp.
yeah. Anyway, so that's if you are experiencing the same thing we are with Chris Noble, just understand that this is a tried and true editing technique for television. But more importantly than all the fun and joy he's giving us, especially in these otherwise dark times, what if he's winning though?
Oh, he's definitely winning. There is no doubt in my mind. Chris Noble is going to win this season. And if you know anything about my history of predicting winners, you know this is now lock, solid, guarantee. Chris Noble is winning the season. We've already gotten his, like a little sob story there. And then we got more today. We saw him bonding with, show favorite Donathan, someone that the show has gone out of its way to make us like, come
He's
on.
passing
now.
it on.
That's right. It's and then it's like everything about him so glowing. Like just listen to how they treat him when he wins those challenges single-handedly. I mean, come on, Chris Noble's winning this season.
Yeah, so Matt has officially determined the Chris Noble winner edit, and thus that means that Chris Noble is going home this week. Damn you! Why would you do that?
It's what I do.
Oh no! But yeah, he is the arrogant bad boy that becomes so much fun. And I didn't prepare this, but another example, and it's killing me, and that's why the
I just thought of
season's
another
too
example.
long. Game of Thrones, Jamie Lannister. He's Jamie Lannister.
That's a good one. I was thinking of another example being Captain Hammer from Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Blog.
Wait, but he was the hero the whole time.
Wasn't
And
he, though?
also, the hammer is anyway.
Yeah. You see, isn't that one perfect?
I mean, Chris Noble would say it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Okay, so because there wasn't a lot of suspense, as we say, I mean, they tried to drum up a little bit of which of the three, which I suppose was a little suspenseful for us, who were all like, Jenna, come on, Jenna. Okay, fine, Michael. But instead of trying to be like, oh, maybe these, plucky kids can turn this around, especially since they didn't give Stephanie the tool to do it at Ghost Island, and this isn't on the breakdown. Let's talk about this for a second. What the hell, man?
Especially because Kellen didn't play the game last week. When
Yes.
someone doesn't play the game, roll the game over. Like, that's the point is you want advantage. Like, the one thing about Survivor that we know in the modern times is they like advantages. So suddenly they're pulling back when someone didn't play the goddamn game, not giving someone else a chance to win that. Come on.
Like, normally I wouldn't be here advocating completely, screw with your show to please me, although, I mean, I don't actually care if they do that. That'd be
Yeah,
fine.
but,
Except that, the one reason why you wouldn't want to do that is it's fan favorites aren't always my favorites. But, they had already planned the potential of some form of advantage being at the game in this point. Roll it over, man. I suppose one positive, although it's almost all negative. Like, really? For this? And I guess they didn't know that they were going to feature, but I kind of feel they probably had a good idea that when they met Stephanie that she'd be a player that they would enjoy. I think I didn't actually get it all from the preseason.
Nope.
Worst take ever. Was where am I even? Obviously everything's on the up and up. They're clearly not going to use Ghost Island to just goose the action, in ways that favor specific people. Because if they, let's talk about this now and put it out there preemptively for all the people that will later conspiracy theory it when it does help benefit, Chris Noble later in the game.
Oh, man.
If they were going to do it, they would have done it here. And not just to save what was clearly one of their favorites, but also to goose the action of something that was otherwise boring and inevitable. So inevitable that even Probst at every opportunity was like, yeah, that was cool and all, but obviously nothing has changed here. And so I guess Ghost Island be on the up and up, but it's like, it wouldn't even be that devious. You had it set, unless, of course, they had it set for Kellen to lose last week. Like there was nothing behind door number 2. It's just a couple of brick walls. But it's like, come on, give her a chance.
Yeah.
But like I said, because they didn't edit to make it seem like they had a chance, they didn't give us long going to look for idols sequences, which very well could have happened. Instead,
apparently it did, according to her. She did look for an idol for a long time.
Yeah, and duh. I'm not one of those people why didn't you look for an idol? Just assume that most people are, unless you hear that they're not. Like last year when they weren't, and Ben was. But they because we heard Ben saying, man, these guys are cool, clearly just letting me do this stuff. They try to instead use this episode to focus on the survivor journeys of the 3 potential victims. And, Stephen Fishback, to his credit, wrote a piece in People magazine about, how much he enjoyed that, how great it was to really kind of show how these journeys are important to people. And I got to say, for me, I don't know if that translates if you weren't also a person who had that survivor experience. And I guess the question I have for you is, how much do you care about people's journeys on the show?
I really don't, especially not with the pre-merge. I would much rather that time be spent getting to know people who are going to be in the game still. They actually gave it a lot of time after the Tribal Challenge with that whole journey thing that wasn't even a scramble. I was really expecting the episode to be a lot more interesting considering how much time was left, and I think I even noted that in the live blog. I would much rather that time be spent getting to know people in the other tribe who we haven't spent as much time with, because I think there are interesting people on that other tribe who, have been getting short shrift the past couple episodes because they haven't been going to tribal.
Yeah, and even if it would have just been a rehash of Dom being pissy that, his whole plans are starting to fall apart now that he really sees that Chris Noble is as awesome as Chris Noble thinks. Yeah, I agree. And it's probably a little callous of me, but no, I don't really care about their journeys, especially this early.
Yeah, exactly. I care more about it when you're the near the end. You're the 7th to last person or whatever. It's then I care a lot more because. Also, the action at a certain point late in the season is pretty straightforward, too. So it's kind of yeah, sure, give me something about someone who I've been watching for 12 episodes at this point who I like.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those people on the internet that gets all tough guy why are they crying? I get this is stressful situations. Yeah. I get that the idea of losing the game that you were this psyched to play, whether you've been waiting for the entire run of the show or whether you've just been waiting since casting began and you were locked up there and spending long days in the island. I get that that's hard for people. I don't begrudge anybody for finding it difficult, for releasing some stress. I've never had a problem with Lisa Whelchel. I haven't had a problem with everybody crying on Ghost Island. But yeah, I just don't care because it doesn't translate to me. Stephen Fishback can watch that and think about what, it's so great that they're showing this meaningful journey. It's that's something like what, a few hundred people have ever had. Yeah. It won't mean much to me, again, especially as for people I haven't spent that much time with. And I include Stephanie, my beloved in that too. Yeah, even though like hers was the best, right? And like it just showed that like how tough it is, because then it goes to Michael and he's like, "Man, I've been a fan forever." It's like, no, not really. And it was real for him, but again, like
I don't care.
40 damn years old. I don't care about your lifelong struggles, child. And then they get to Jenna, and it's not even a thing. It's just like
it's about Sebastian. It's
or it's about her, resting bitch face, and it's just like, okay, cool, that's nothing about Survivor. And again, it's not her. It's fine that she's not having this overpowering Survivor journey. Frankly, I don't know how big a fan she is of the show. But moreover, and I don't know. You guys can at me all you want. Be like,
I have no idea.
Their journey is theirs, and it's the one thing that like the jury can't take away from them. It's the one thing that assholes like me on podcasts can't take away from them. It's one thing the edit can't take away from them. That's their journey, and in some ways I can respect the show for trying to deliver it to them, but it didn't work, especially because it's like. And maybe it would have worked in retrospect if Stephanie hadn't gone home, because this would be like a step. And then she overcomes this moment, and then later it'll build upon my lowest moment is when right before the second swap I thought it was going to go. Yeah. And again, then maybe they'll try that with Michael, but I don't care. Lifelong journeys of 18-year-olds will not interest me, even if they're winning a medal in the fucking Olympics. It's just it's not a long life. Try something else.
The one thing I will say is Survivor has been on the air for a long time, and we have seen the way they tell their stories change over time. I wonder to a certain extent if Survivor is not experimenting a little bit. They're not experimenting with a different way to tell a story and seeing how it's being responded to.
And ultimately, this was going to be a meh episode no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like I'm not necessarily... I'm not necessarily critiquing them for trying and maybe not succeeding, at least not in my eyes. And it did obviously more for this Fishback. I believe there was at least one commenter who was like, "Hey, that was an emotional episode," and then hilariously is like, "I wonder if the podcast is prepared to speak about that." And I'm like, "Well, no. Emotions. I mean, maybe Matt's the guy who exhibits more emotion."
It's true. I cry at like all movies. So
yeah. Congratulations for not being a defective human. We will talk one day about what that's like. But no, I mean, and especially because, again, even if it's something you find interesting and compelling, and it, obviously people turn to reality television for that sometimes, it's not really something we can talk about. Are we going to sit here and debate? What, I don't know if that's really what Stephanie's personal journey was like. No. So yeah, it's just like, okay, cool, whatever. All right, so back to the game is the thing we can talk about.
Sure.
And one person that haven't been talking about much, in part because the show hasn't invested in us talking about much, but maybe we should be, is Desiree, because by all indications of the edit, both of these past two votes were her suggestions, and both of them were the right suggestions. Last week, especially the right one, because it could have gone wrong. I frankly believe that if they had stuck to Michael, they would have lost, because when he pulls out an idol, then they would have flipped the freak out, right? And he would have known to play it for himself. Do you think she should be getting more credit?
I think she should be getting more credit. I also don't think she should be getting all the credit. I mean, I actually read Stephanie's exit interview today, and she was pretty much like Bradley and Kellen had that alliance on lockdown. They were the obvious leaders and the obvious power couple. So now she wouldn't have, the perfect view of the inner mechanics of that alliance. So maybe Desiree did have a larger voice than she realized. But even in these episodes, we see Desiree suggesting it, but that doesn't mean everyone's not immediately like, yes, absolutely. It still has to go through Bradley and Kellen on what they think, because I think that, I completely believe Desiree was the one who suggested these, and she was absolutely right to do so, and kudos to her for doing that, but I don't think she's holding the power in this tribe.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think the past two episodes actually have taken large strides to show us that these are definitely group decisions. As much as even the edit or, Stephanie and company like to make it all Bradley, he is, if not completely using consensus thinking, given the appearance of it. God, he's actually playing really well, and
he is.
Can't stand him, and I want him to fail.
You can be doing everything right and still be messing up. Is my opinion.
And also because strategy is only one part of Survivor, and I think the things that we pointed out that he's not doing well, can matter, such as completely cutting off another side and making them angry with you, because that other side might not always be another side. Yeah, I think maybe what she should be getting credit for is she seems to have good reads on situations. And
Yes, exactly.
It indicates a good understanding of the game theory of Survivor. That said, she's otherwise fairly hidden in the edit. That might not be a bad thing, because as you discuss, Bradley and Kellen and the other side's talking about Bradley and Kellen. Bradley and Kellen aren't getting a good edit, despite the fact that they're doing well. So maybe the edit is actually protecting Desiree right now, because they're trying to craft villains, even though the villains are successful.
Right, and what they are giving to Desiree is showing her competence.
Yeah, and thus maybe later, if that she's able to spin that into more action or credit, then we'll see more of her, because now the show will be ready to let somebody from that side look good instead of being the people we root against, which either is indicative of them doing poorly, which in Bradley it's 100% indicative of that, or it's just they know that their audience will naturally cheer for the underdog, even if it's not the other side's fault. In fact, they deserved to have an advantage. They won the first two challenges. And then I think another reason for Desiree maybe not being a big part of the edit is maybe she's purposefully not really stepping out there. Yeah. And I can't judge her for not being a person like herself trying to push back on people. I can't fault her for maybe trying to stay a little hidden to an extent, because we have seen what otherwise happens.
I mean, the one thing I'd push back with there is that we don't even really see her in confessionals. Because I actually, the way I read that alliance, I do think that she is in like the inner three. Mm-hmm. I think she's more in with like the decision making than Chelsea and Sebastian are, and I think we've gotten confirmation on the show about that. Mm-hmm. But they're not giving her confessionals to talk about it. So. Yeah.
And it could be she also isn't really giving them much at this point, because she's she's pretty clearly, no, this is what we're doing. Obviously, we're going to stay strong. And we saw the secret scene with Michael trying to pretty inelegantly win her over. And at least a little small credit to Michael. When it was over, he's like, yeah, that ain't happening. So at least he didn't Chris Noah would have been like, I got this. Michael was like, nah, man. Maybe he didn't completely I biffed that. But so... Anyway, that's our first talk about Desiree all season. Is there anybody else from this episode, or since you haven't been on the podcast yet this season, from the season you want to talk about?
I mean, there's no one else from this episode. We didn't see anything else this episode.
The only other real moment was the Donathan Laurel moment.
Which I think is much more about Donathan. But Donathan's the type of person who you put on the show because he's going to give you character content, and you want to feature that because people are going to find it interesting. Donathan's going to be their inspiring person this season. I think Donathan's sticking around for a long time, so I think they'll get that out of him. Now, I don't think Donathan's winning, but I think he'll be around to final 8 or so, and they'll get some good content from him. I've liked, I find that the people that I like this season are all on that original, I guess they're the Malolos, the people who've all been getting voted out. I like, James, I like, I guess Wendell's not on there, but I like Wendell. Michael. A lot of people, what?
Michael?
Yeah, Michael, obviously Stephanie, I liked, Donathan. I think the other tribe right now, though they're winning, has some kind of interesting personas, and I think the dynamics over there are a lot more interesting. It's kind of a shame that they're not the ones going to tribal, because I feel like we would have a lot more interesting episodes.
Yeah. But it was good to see my boy Donathan, just check in with him, but there really isn't much to talk about because it's the same notes that have been played for a little bit here, and the same notes that will probably continue to be played. I do hope that we'll get a few fresh notes, that he'll do a few things.
I hope that from a lot of people, because I feel like a lot of people so far have been kind of one note to the extent they've been even featured. So
and that's a factor of we've got a whole lot of more season to go, and Survivor and reality television do lean on archetypes. Not everybody's going to develop that second note, and that's fine, because not everybody's a featured character in a story, and people who look to go into a television season hoping for 20 lead characters are kidding themselves. That's not how it works. Not even on bloated HBO shows. So yeah, I guess the last thing for Survivor talk is prediction for next week. So the next time on Survivor tells us that, well, drop your buffs is basically what it tells us. I guess it doesn't tell us if it's a swap or a merge, but it's a swap because we know a merge is coming at 13.
Correct. Do you think it's going to be a 2-tribe, or do you think they'll go out to 3 since there's 15 people left?
Yeah, I think some people convincingly argued that it'd be 7-7 in a Ghost Island, and that would make sense. Yeah. That's what I would hope, because I think Ghost Island does not make 3 tribes feasible. But I still think I would be on the lookout for 3 tribes, because 5-5-5 is fine. You can carry that for 2 votes easily.
Yeah, absolutely. The worst thing that can happen is that one tribe loses 2 votes and they go down to 3 people.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, we've seen a tribe go down to 2 people.
Yep.
3 is nothing. And there were other internet-y reasons to suspect that there might have been 1 more tribe this season. But I think it's going to be 2, just because I just don't know how they would manage that. So because we don't know what the configurations are and thus can't really tell who's going to have beef with who's going to be on the outs of numbers or in the positive, we're only going to pick from 1 tribe, because I don't know how you would pick from multiple tribes. We don't even know how many tribes are going to be. I'm going to roll over my Bradley pick.
Oh, okay.
And that's not just me. I'm going to keep picking him until it's right. A lot of people have argued this, in the past 2 weeks, and I think it makes a lot of sense that an explanation for Bradley's edit would be that he's riding high when he got a lucky swap and was ahead of numbers, and then suddenly he will not be in the numbers, and we'll get to see the poetic justice. That's it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that would be both be an entertaining outcome and one that would follow from the show that we've seen so far. I also think it's wrong because next week's boot is going to be Chris Noble.
That's because of what you did to him?
Of course, yeah. It's all me. I have full control over this. Chris Noble will not be able to restrain his Chris Nobleness. That's Chris Noble's essential character. And he's going to go to a new tribe. He's going to try and be Chris Noble. And this tribe is going to just not be having it.
Yeah, and, his big rival has an idol, and then in 2 episodes, we'll also have another potential immunity. So it's going to be tough for Chris Noble to traverse that, but, if anyone can, it's
Chris Noble.
God, I hope not.
I hope not either. I really hope not. This is my reverse jinx.
Suddenly, this is Game Changers, man. And I'll be like, man, maybe James can do an interesting thing again. Maybe Jonathan can win.
Honestly, my biggest fear about this season is that it goes the Game Changers route and all the interesting people get voted out pre-merge. That's kind of my fear right now.
Now, I mean, it's been basically one. I mean, Brendan was fine. He was a little better than his type usually is, in part because they didn't need to do much more than make him seem good because he wasn't around very long. Right. But we lost one, but I mean, she was a superstar. Yeah. Best player of all time.
But if Brendan had stuck around, we could have gotten to see more Savage style pep talks.
I know.
I really would have liked to have seen that.
So that's all we got for Survivor talk, which, we did all right for an episode that didn't have a lot, but we, generally try to get this show to an hour. And because Matt's here, because it's this time of year, we decided that since we didn't have that much to talk about Survivor, we were just going to talk about the NBA. Because the season's wrapping up, and we are 2 big NBA fans, and actual watching NBA games fans, not just like John used to watch the Heat when they were a popular NBA fan. So we're done with Survivor talk. If obviously, listening to us talk about the end of the NBA season is not interesting to you, piss off. Come on. Yeah. No,
you've been given your warning. There will be no more Survivor. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, we'll talk to you next week. And actually, I have the amount of live viewers right now, so I want to see how it ticks down. You guys can check back with the podcast version later to see which song I throw it at the end. Hopefully, I won't blare it in as loud as I did last week. So to wrap up the season, we've got a couple more weeks left, and obviously, a lot of playoff seeding could change. Not much is separating, third from eighth in the East, but we know all teams are going to make the playoffs. In the West, we don't know for sure which kind of teams, but it's starting to look like Denver and the Clippers have run out of steam in there. So I think we have enough evidence to start talking about end of the year awards.
Sure.
So that's what we're going to do, and then we're going to give our NBA Finals predictions. And yep, the viewers have cut down. So MVP, who do you got?
Harden.
Yeah, there's really no discussion. Anybody who wants to discuss otherwise is a sad homer, or they just can't stand James Harden.
Come on, LeBron James.
Yeah, the guy who had made them switch half their team because he just couldn't stand to be around those guys. I mean, look, he's also LeBron James. Because the only good discussion is who gets your second vote if you're your second place vote if you're a voter.
I think the way it will finish. Okay, extra prediction. You didn't even ask this in the breakdown, but I think the order it will finish will be Harden, LeBron, Giannis.
I think Anthony Davis should be your second vote because he's been destroying it since Boogie went out.
That's a good one. I think it will definitely be in there. But.
Yeah, I mean, look, if LeBron belongs on your ballot because you write 5, but his team lost a lot of games in extremely embarrassing fashion this year. That should be enough to be like, Brown's averaging 50 and 20 since But now, LeBron's team is still going to win a lot more games than Browns will. But, last year we decided as a community, apparently, that winning basketball games isn't really all that important to the MVP race. So
that's what I'm saying, LeBron James.
There you go. All right, Defensive Player of the Year. I think you probably have an opinion, or at least a rooting interest.
I have a rooting interest, but I don't think he's going to win.
Who do you got?
So I actually struggle with this one because I feel like the top choices have been kind of dropping like flies. I think for a while it was Draymond, and then he got hurt, and I don't think he's actually going to win. But the one guy I've been kind of thinking all season had a good chance was Paul George. And the reason why is because it's not just that he's been really, really good defensively. I think he's leading the league in steals or something like that, or deflections, or. But it's also the fact that he's accepted the smaller role, and it's he's he's playing. It's the whole I am focusing on defense to help my team win. And while Roberson was there, he and Roberson were the nastiest defensive wing pair, in the NBA, and it was actually really effective. So I am actually Paul George. That's
the argument against Paul George is Roberson, not just that,
yes.
The way suddenly we decided once you have 2 good players, you can't win MVP because how could you be so valuable if your roster doesn't suck? I will never get over last year's MVP voting, even though the choice was probably fine, but the arguments. Because once Roberson went down, the Thunder's defensive rating just they were
actually it's rebounded since they picked up Corey Brewer. So which is who would have thought? But
yeah. So and I agree. It's also it is not an easy one because I also agree that it's probably not Draymond, not just because he got hurt a little bit because he hasn't missed that many games, but it's also the Warriors rightly decided at certain points of the season it's enough defense, all right, and he's been one of them.
Who do you got?
I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert, who missed a lot of time to begin the season, but they've lost 3 games since he came back. So it's tough because the games aren't quite there. Although if he plays the rest of the season, it's not too bad. But he's the best defensive player in the game.
No, that's completely no. If it's Gobert, then I'm actually mad. Then my rooting just takes over, and I'm no, because he's not the best defensive player in the game. He's not the best defensive center in the game. It's Embiid. I mean, come on. Anyway.
Well, at least I got you to.
Yeah, you got me there.
Waiting this long.
I was not picking Embiid because one, I don't think he will win. I think that he should be in the argument, but I don't know.
But I think they're 29-3 since he came back or something like that. It's insane. They went from 10th place to I haven't looked tonight because I will watch basketball when we're done recording. But I think they were 5th last time I saw, and it's not necessarily because of his scoring. All right.
So 5th place does it for you, not 4th place. The Jazz are in 8th, by the way. So
well, again today. All right. Coach of the year, who you got?
Raptors coach Dwayne Casey.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even. I think that's going to be a runaway. I'm kind of curious to see where any other votes go.
Well, it's tough for Coach of the Year to run away because, they're always going to list off a bunch of people because coaches are the people that give them their quotes. And, it's fair to talk about Brad Stevens, although his team did start to tail off. And, you always have to look to the teams that outperformed expectations, like Nate McMillan with Indiana or Portland, Terry Stotts. But
what about a young team winning, having a winning record after many years where they haven't done that?
There you go. Exactly. Brett Brown is your coach?
Yeah.
But no, it's the Raptors. They're, first place in the Eastern Conference. They're the only team to rank both in the top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. And they completely overhauled the way they play without completely overhauling their roster. Now, they actually have changed their roster to a degree. To everybody out there who wants to talk about how the Raptors aren't nothing, they always lose every year. The guys that are getting major minutes now weren't the guys that lost to Washington several years ago. And if we're going to fault them for losing to, and again, everybody's like, well, they lost to LeBron, they'll lose LeBron and Kyrie. That's actually just what happens sometimes because one team's better than the other. But again, the Raptors were heavily flawed before. Yeah. They are a different team now, and I get if you don't know that because they've been on TV in the United States like twice all season.
Well, save the talk of the Raptors being a different team. I'm sure we'll cover that later.
We will get to it. I promise you that.
But I also think that he's the coach of the year because they weren't projected to be this good, and they most people projected them to take a step back. Most people projected them to be like middle of the pack in the East, not the clear
below the Wizards competing with Milwaukee or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, it's just they're different. They play differently, and strangely, it's like the way that people were asking them for years. And some of it obviously is you have to wait until your stars are ready to do that. Some of it is that their roster has changed. Ibaka was only tucked in at the end, but more importantly, that bench were like a bunch of rookies and D-leaguers last year because it was still the D-League at that point.
Not the G-League.
Yeah, but now, they're moving the ball around, they're shooting threes. That's coaching, and that's buy-in from your coach. Most improved player?
Oladipo. Yeah. I think that's another easy one, yeah.
The only difficulty is that nobody knows what this award means, and too often the young player who has, continued their upward trajectory at the rate that they should. But with Depot, he actually took a downturn playing with the league MVP, and now he's killing it.
Never going to let that one go.
Again, look, it wasn't a bad vote, but what happened is everybody's like, of course it's him, and it's so stupid that people are saying, no, it's not stupid. Maybe other things matter. Winning used to matter, and also, why do we care about how many rebounds a guard gets? And before somebody wants to talk to me about that's not why, other Scott, explain to me why Russ isn't in the conversation this year. Because he's basically one rebound off of last year's pace, and nobody cares. And that's because he doesn't have those round numbers, not just now, because I guess he averages 12 rebounds a game for the rest of the year, and then the week from now, if he averages 13 rebounds a game for the rest of the year. It was that he was there all season, so it became this whole narrative, and it was all because a guard got 10 rebounds a game. If he had gotten 8 rebounds a game, or basically 7, which is what Harden did last year, nobody would have cared. But because round number rebounding, which is basically because his amazing 7-foot center chooses not to rebound on the defensive end, even though he gobbles up every rebound on the offensive end, that's why he was MVP. There, you made me yell.
Yeah, I made you a few times during the NBA segment. I'm kind of proud of myself. You got me too, so it's only fair. So
one player I hope gets some votes in most improved players, Julius Randle, who's contract year.
Oh no, I actually think that would be a good second or third choice. I think that he has actually made huge strides. So
I think he's my favorite Laker, and now I'm like, what can we do? We got to keep him. But if you ask me like him or LeBron James, I'm not stupid enough to be like, oh, Julius Randle. But there are ways that they could get LeBron, Paul George, and keep him. They are not easy ways, but it could happen. All right. Do you have an opinion about sixth man of the year?
No. I was actually struggling to even think of a sixth man, but the only one I could come up with it was Eric Gordon, and you told me that he's tailed off recently, so I don't know.
Yeah, I need to see how often Lou Williams started or not. Because, he's the obvious choice, but it's like, has he started since Blake left, and before that, is he a starter now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of like prominent sixth men. Like, I'm just.
I mean, part of the problem is the best bench players in the NBA all play on the Raptors. It's hard to pick just one of them, right?
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, right.
if I wanted to, I'd be like Fred VanVleet because he closes out games too. But
Yeah, now watch like Marcus Smart win this one or something like that.
he got hurt, so hopefully not. And God, the thing that unites all of us as NBA fans on the Purple Rock Slack is that the Celtics are hated by all of us.
That's right.
So, and that continues. All right, so, yeah, who knows? Again, it might be, and it's important to note that voters also don't really care, so maybe it'll just be Lou Williams because they'll remember that he was almost an All-Star and forget that whether he started or not. All-NBA first team.
Okay, let's do it this way. Center Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, he isn't quite a center, but I believe he's started there about 40% of the time, so that's good enough.
And he's been starting
especially since forward is so hard.
Right, and he's been starting there ever since Boogie went down, so I think that's what's going to do it. And he's having an amazing season, so. Who do you got as your forwards?
So there's 3 guys for 2 spots, and that makes it tough, but the fact that the Bucks have sucked since obviously before they fired Jason Kidd, and really other than the dead coach bounce right at the beginning, haven't been much better since. I think that takes Giannis out, and I went with LeBron and KD.
Okay, I went with LeBron and Giannis.
Yeah,
so,
and I mean, obviously the argument against KD is he's been missing time.
Right, which, I don't think Giannis has, but, it's, Giannis's team has not been, especially good. They've been fine, but, is he deserving of NBA first team because of that? I don't know. I mean, KD is, in my opinion, a better player, but I don't know if he's had a better season. So
yeah, I mean, like if the Bucks hadn't underperformed a lot, then I think I would go with Giannis. But they're like pretty entrenched into the 8th seed, and as somebody who's rooting for the Raptors, they do not scare me at all.
No.
At all. No. I mean, the Raptors turning into the Raptors might put a little bit of fear into me, but the Bucks themselves. And again, a lot of that isn't Giannis's fault. The team is bad around him, but I mean,
it's just a weird roster. It's a weird roster.
All right, and then guards this is really tough. Other than Harden, Harden's obviously
I was gonna say obviously Harden's one. I don't really know who I'm going with my second one. It's tough because like Chris Paul and Curry have both missed time, but like when they've been playing, they're incredible.
Yeah, and it's like it's tough. Like, how would you pick one or the other? First, it was Curry for most of the year. Yeah. Curry got back to being Curry this year.
Yeah.
Again, like Paul missed so much time he couldn't be on the All-Star team. Although by the time the All-Star game had rolled around, it's like, man, he's played enough games, and it's kind of sad that he's not out there because he's clearly one of the best.
Oh yeah, he's incredible, and I think watching him with Harden this year is actually really interesting.
Yeah. And then Curry had this time, so I actually went with DeRozan because a bit of a homer, and also I think he deserves it.
I was going to say, I was going to mention 2 other guys. So DeRozan was one of them. He's obviously had an amazing season. He's totally stepped up his game and, shown that he has, like different aspects than we've seen before from him. And he's really carried that team to an extent that, he hasn't carried that team, but you know what I mean? He's led that team, and they have one of the 3 best records in the league. And then the 4th name is the one you'll hate the most.
No, it's Westbrook. Westbrook deserves consideration.
Here's my prediction. I don't think Westbrook should be there. I think he will be there.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I think.
You think the backlash will knock him off?
Yeah, and
Okay.
the stupid is like the backlash is about as stupid as the bandwagon was last year.
Yeah,
like his numbers are right there, and frankly, by the time the year's up, he will probably be in a better position team wise. Last year, were they 6th? They could have a home game. Yeah. They could be hosting a home series when this is all told. They could still be like 8th. In fact, they could not make the playoffs, but I think they've won enough games recently, and they had enough wins in hand that I don't really see them, especially since Denver and the Clippers.
Yeah, they're tied for 4th right now. So
yeah. But yeah, I mean, not separates it, but like he could have a better record with better teammates. And frankly, it's poetic that as soon as he got better teammates, people stopped talking about him as he can't be an MVP anymore because that was the debate they created. Suddenly, most valuable means that if you play with garbage people, you're better. No, not really. That's never what it's ever meant before. And that's also stupid. That's penalizing guys for playing with good players and giving credit for people for their teams, their GM not doing their job. Which isn't necessarily the case in the Thunder, obviously. Now, what happened last year is what happens basically every year in the NBA is it was narrative driven. Both the triple double thing and watch Westbrook stick it to KD, it's so fun. And now there's no narrative for him because people are starting to realize, oh wait, not all triple doubles are actually an act of raising your team up in selflessness. Sometimes it's just stat gathering, which isn't necessarily even like a Westbrook thing, although it's totally a Westbrook thing. We've all seen the games where suddenly he will not shoot, and everybody who catches a pass from him has to launch it right away. They're like afraid of like taking an extra step if it's on the road. Obviously, if they're at home, they could take 3 pivots and it'll still be an assist. Right. But you just see it any game. Any game, it gets close and a guy's close to a triple-double, suddenly the whole team stops playing basketball.
It happened on the Sixers when T.J. McConnell almost had a triple-double. Everyone on the bench was telling him, you got to go get that rebound.
Yeah. And the worst is when they need the assist. Because suddenly, everybody's launching everything, and they're not taking open shots, and it's laughable when Westbrook he'll be wide open and he'll just pass it.
Right.
The other teams are they're probably like, hey, he needs his assist. But yeah, so it was narrative driven and blah blah blah. But again, he did a whole much. Yeah, it was amazing. I think another consideration for first team or second team is Damian Lillard, who has been really amazing.
And it'd be amazing at the end of the year.
Yeah, when it counted, and his team is third. Better than Westbrook's team.
Yep.
So since we kind of talked about snubs, that gets us to the second team. We won't fill out our third team in comments, though. I would love it if anybody still cares. So I had Giannis, and you had Durant, right?
Yeah, that was the easy one. Center, I had Embiid.
Of course, as do I.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad I don't have to get mad at you here. And then, the guards, it's like choosing between the 3 guys who I discussed there, which is Paul Curry and DeRozan. And again, I kind of feel like DeMar is I just don't think he's going to get the respect. I think he's going to be bumped down to third team, and I don't think he deserves it. But that's kind of what I think. I think it's Paul in second.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. He was third last year, although that felt a little more true to where he belonged. Yeah. I went with Curry and CP3, and I don't even have Westbrook in my top 3. I will probably put him on third team with Lillard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are the top 6 guards. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that leaves off Oladipo, and that's tough.
That is tough.
But it's going to be tough. Somebody's going to not be there. And I can't leave Chris Paul out. He's been amazing. And his team just basically never loses anymore. And one more forward, which was tough, until I remembered that Karl Anthony Towns, while he should be a center, is not actually a center. Taj Gibson is the center of the Wolves, and when you play as a starter for Tom Thibodeau, you're playing most of the minutes. So while Karl Anthony Towns plays 47 minutes a game, Taj Gibson is playing about 39. Yeah. So most of the game, Karl Anthony Towns is not a center. So second team, all NBA forward, easy.
That's a good one. I put down Draymond Green for that.
Yeah, I probably have him a third.
Yeah, I think.
And Klay Thompson won't even make the top 6.
No, I don't think he will this year.
He couldn't. I think he might have last year because CP3 was hurt even more. All right, so that's the awards.
There's one more award you forgot.
Yeah, the one that they lost at the end of the year. Who's going to be the champion?
No. You forgot Rookie of the Year.
Oh, we did.
Because if you say Donovan Mitchell, you're a cop.
You're going to hang up on me right now. No, it's Ben Simmons.
That
I was pissed every 3 days leading up to the All-Star game when they would name somebody else other than Ben Simmons to the All-Star game. It's come on. Yeah. I was fine with him not making the top 12 because they yet weren't good enough, and it's tougher for a rookie. But I'm like, nobody wants to see Andre Drummond, and that pick is aged like fine wine, huh? Yeah. Or it's like, oh, they got to give him Miami Heat in there because they're 4th place, so Goran Dragic, and meanwhile now the Miami Heat are 7th. It should have been Ben Simmons then. I mean, I understand why people are talking about Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell's a good rookie.
And he's been awesome. He's been on my fantasy team most of the year. Okay. But no, it's Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is the best rookie, even though he can't shoot.
Right. And the one thing I will say about Donovan Mitchell in his case, these are the same fans who brought us the whole Deron Williams is better than Chris Paul. So don't forget that.
Yeah. and that Rudy Gobert is a better defensive player than Joel Embiid. And my third place ballot for Rookie of the Year goes to Kyle Kuzma. Anyway, finals. Who's making the finals? Who's winning the finals? Who do you got coming in? So let's do the East last. West is a more interesting discussion than we ever thought it would be.
Yes. I still think it's the Warriors.
Yeah, I still think it's the Warriors.
Yeah.
I think it's worth discussing, both because the Rockets have been that good,
yes,
and the Warriors are not healthy. And obviously, all of their injuries are projected to return at a certain time. But for one, as any Philadelphia 76ers fan will tell you, projected to come back and actually coming back can be very different things. But also,
they might not come back fully healthy.
Right. The Warriors already lost the championship because one of their stars didn't come back fully healthy. And yes, they would have won if Curry hadn't hurt himself. And for everybody who wants to be all like, oh, he was playing, he was fine, you clearly don't watch Steph Curry play. The guy couldn't beat Kevin Love off the dribble. That's not what Steph Curry did. And since they lost that series by a single bucket, I'm willing to say that maybe in like a 70% Steph Curry was the reason why. So that is enough worry, but I also think that the Golden State Warriors have rightly decided that this season does not matter that much, and they can turn it on. I've watched them play frequently, and they can be better, and I don't know that the Rockets can be any better than they are currently. Now, they don't need to be much better than they are currently because they're really good, but we've also seen that the playoffs have kind of shown that the Rockets stuff doesn't quite work in the playoffs.
I will say, I think these Rockets might be a little different than the past Rockets, just like this year's Raptors might be a little different than past year's Raptors. And I will say that we have seen the Warriors during this era being challenged before, not just in the series they lost to Cleveland, but also remember the series before
the one they almost lost right before that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I do think it's possible that the Rockets knock them off. Like, I don't think this is assured. I just think that the Warriors are the Warriors, and until they actually lose, I'm going to pick them.
Yeah. No, I mean, this isn't even like just narrative, like the Rockets will choke.
No, I don't think they will. I think it'll be a good series.
Their style of play might not translate as well to the playoffs, which is take a whole lot of threes, even with people that aren't necessarily good at them, and goad the refs into sending to the line. And the bigger one is in the playoffs, the refs swallow their whistles more.
Right.
And that's part of why a player like James Harden has had less success. Now, I think another reason why, and probably maybe even the bigger reason why, is the dude has just been so tired by the time he gets there. And then once things start to go south, he's done. And he won't be as tired, although he's still playing major minutes. And despite the narrative of Harden versus Westbrook that some people might want to go, nobody holds the ball as much as James Harden does. But obviously he's had another star to lean on and assist him. Yes. But it is a question like once the games get tighter and they play good defense, but they don't have the defensive players that the Warriors have. Like the Warriors' worst starter defensively is Steph Curry, who's actually a decent team defensive player, and much better than James Harden. Although James Harden is actually a pretty good post defender. I don't see James Harden defending Steph Curry in the post very much because that's not what they're going to do with him, right? They're not going to be sending him or Klay down there, so that might not really matter that much. And on a switch with Kevin Durant, you're not that good of a defensive player, or post player. So I also think the Warriors would get there because ultimately in a 7-game series, you have to deal with both Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Yes. But no, by the way, maybe the second greatest shooter of all time is just posted up over there. Yep. All right, East. The East might be the more fun discussion.
I don't think it will because I think we're going to say the same thing.
I think the Raptors will win.
Yeah, I think they will. I actually think they will. I do think that LeBron does have an extra gear, and I do think the Cavs will be playing better than they are now in the playoffs, and I do think they will be in the Eastern Conference Finals because I think the Celtics have fallen off, and I think they're going to trounce them. But I think the Raptors are actually really good this year.
Yeah, and moreover, the Cavs aren't that good. It's both of those together. Look, I understand some level of skepticism with the Raptors. They've earned it. They've absolutely earned it. Although, just as we said with James Harden, that a lot of times he was just exhausted by the end of the season. That was Kyle Lowry. Every year by the playoffs, because Kyle Lowry was always like top 5 in minutes to the NBA.
Right.
He's not playing like that way. It's just like what the Warriors ended up doing a few years ago with Steph and all that. Like nobody on the Raptors plays like more than 40 minutes a game. So he shouldn't be as worn out. And they have so much more things. They are a much better team. They play a style of ball which is more successful and thus gives you more outs, which is that 3 points are so much more than 2 points.
Yeah.
And people are like, it's one more point. No, it's a third. It's like 50% more. So it's a big deal, and they shoot those now. But moreover, like the Cavs aren't good. LeBron is good. No, I mean LeBron. I'm almost ready to call him the greatest player of all time. Obviously the easy, non-controversial thing is he's the greatest player of his generation.
Sure.
But like he does so many things that Jordan just didn't. But so yeah, he is really good. Their second best player is Kevin Love, the guy who everybody blamed for anything that didn't go well with the Cavs for the past 3 years, and who often was sitting on the bench watching while the Cavs were doing well in their 2 runs the past 2 years. Right. And their third best player is who? Larry Nance Jr.? Like he was the 4th best forward on the Lakers.
Yeah. No, I mean it's the thing is, you're right. They are not that good. LeBron is amazing, and it's hard to doubt LeBron until he actually loses because he hasn't lost in the East, since he was a Cav.
Yeah, I would say to that, he has not played a team as good as the Raptors in the East since he was a Cav or a Heat. Like their best teams they faced were like the offensively anemic Pacers, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back about some of the Heat challengers.
So it was like the Pacers, if not 4 years in a row, it was 3 years in a row. For the Cavs, their Eastern Conference opponents were the Raptors. Last year was the beaten down Celtics who didn't have Isaiah Thomas. I think Avery Bradley might have been hurt too. And also they were nowhere near as good as the Cavs. The Raptors the following year, the year before that, and then it was the freaking Hawks. I think the Raptors are the best team that they will potentially have faced, in large part because they haven't had a lot of good, or LeBron hasn't had a lot of good teams. And to the argument that how do you ever bet against LeBron? I've seen him when he plays teams that are better than his. He loses. That's what happens. And this isn't a fault on him. Before anybody, runs to start defending him, and it's ridiculous that LeBron frickin' James requires defenders, but obviously there's people who made their career attacking him. Again, I think he might be the greatest player of all time. I am not slighting him. The defense, obviously, smart people give when he loses 5 out of 8 finals is that, his team wasn't as good. It's a team sport. Well, then why are we all of a sudden like this loser Cavs team, which is made up of a bunch of spare parts from teams that were not in the playoffs when they traded them? The Jazz basically haven't lost since they traded the beloved Rodney Hood. Suddenly there's we forget that. And some of it obviously is that nobody trusts the Raptors. And again, they've earned that, although apparently we're okay trusting the Rockets and Chris Paul and Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think if the Raptors go down because they're going to flame out, I think it's going to happen before they get to the Cavs.
Yeah, I do not want to see your team in the first round, but that won't happen, so I'm not worried.
No, but you could see us in the second round.
Yes, but by then, I actually am not afraid. If we faced a star-driven team in the first round, then I'd be scared. But I think they'll blow out the Bucks, and then finally the confidence. And I think they also feel like they can beat the Cavs. Now, obviously, this is a discussion where we're having the day after the Cavs just beat them, and everybody's like, "The Raptors suck, and LeBron's a god." For one, LeBron was a god. He was amazing.
That was an insane
But this
game.
is what it took to beat the Raptors on the second night of a road back-to-back. 136 points and LeBron scoring 40 with 17 assists and 0 turnovers. If LeBron turns over the ball once, he might have lost that game. Now, the Cavs were down 4 guys, rotation players, and that's really important, especially when you don't have a very good team.
No.
But, I mean, people are like, we can't trust the Raptors. They've never won. But what, Jetty Osman has? What George Hill has? These aren't last year's Cavs, and people just haven't noticed that, even though we've seen them many times on TV be pathetic. Get blown the fuck out by the Orlando Magic bad.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, they made trades. They made trades for bench players of lottery teams.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
But LeBron still might beat them. I'm not saying, I'm not guaranteeing that the Raptors will win.
No.
I just want it to be an honest conversation that A, this Raptors team could win, and
Yes.
B, and much more importantly, this Cavs team should lose. They are not good. He is amazing. Kevin Love is fine. The rest of the team is butt.
If LeBron drags this team to the finals, that would almost be more impressive than beating the Warriors. I'm just
And
saying.
then everybody's like, well, hey, he made it close against the Warriors. It's like, not really. I mean, they won 2 games with nobody, and the Warriors weren't yet the Warriors. Maybe they were about as good as the Raptors were. But, once the Warriors figured it out, it was a wrap. And that's the thing, who's going to stop LeBron James? The answer is the same answer it's been for the past, 15 years. No one.
Right. Yeah.
But
The
who's
thing
going to stop anybody on the Raptors? Even LeBron doesn't play that much defense. That's the thing he'll turn up for the playoffs. Except that the thing that he likes to do is play free safety, and that's going to be tough when everybody else is a turnstile. And the Raptors probably would have won the game last night if they just kept making Kevin Love be a defender, because they've got a bunch of guys in the post that can just destroy Kevin Love, because almost anybody in the post can do that.
Yeah,
so I'm comfortable saying that it will be Raptors versus Warriors. But I'm not insane. It's going to be the Warriors beating them, maybe in 4.
I was going to say, I don't think it's even going to be that close, unfortunately. So
no. I think there could be a close game because they've had 2 close games against the Warriors so far this season.
Right, I'm saying the games could be close. I don't think the series will.
Me
It's going to be 4 or 5 games.
All right, so that was a longish NBA discussion. I loved it.
It was actually quite long.
There's no reason why I should be having an NBA podcast, but I just fulfilled a little bit of my dream, and this is the first and last time. But if you have NBA thoughts, comments, because there's only so much we can talk about the greatness of Chris Noble. Please still do so. More.
Chris Noble.
But yeah, this was an episode of Survivor, so sometimes we have fun. We do that on our website. You can find that at purplerockpodcast.com. On Twitter, the show is Purple Rock Pod. I am Purple Rock Andy, and you are
Purple Rock Matt.
We didn't plan it when we called it Purple Rock, but it's so perfect. It's also perfect to have separate Survivor Twitter accounts so that none of y'all mix in with my NBA takes. If you love this so much, you should be following my other Twitter account where it's Andy_Sayers, except that you'll be like, who cares this much about the Lakers, dude? This guy right here. You're like, but aren't you Canadian? Didn't I just hear your rant about the Raptors? The Raptors did not exist when I was picking an NBA team because I am so old, and I can be a fan of both because the Raptors and the Lakers have a grand total of 1 meaningful game in the history of the Raptors franchise, and that's when Kobe got them for 81. So there's really not a rivalry that's interfering. One games are 2 hours before the other games. Subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on YouTube. And anything else, Matt?
That's it.
All right. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to abruptly hit stop. If you're listening to the podcast, here comes a song.